So this is also a really interesting time if you are looking to invest in real estate. So one major silver lining to being in this crazy time is that there are a lot of opportunities for investment, and there will be more and more and more and more into the future. So what should people be thinking about when they're looking for an investment opportunity right now?
Well, I think the investment opportunity, putting the financing to the side, which is really in my opinion, the biggest element, they may be looking at things for a number of reasons. They may be looking at multifamily because it's considered the safest bet.
Right, especially right now, people are spending more time
at home, and also because with real estate in general being tough, the appraisals are showing things not to be worth what they were worth when things were great. So you might be able to pick things up at a little bit of a discount price, knowing that over time, there's a very good chance it's a great opportunity. They're going to make a lot of money. Remember, compared to the stock market in 2008, when you thought everything was going to go to the ground, and people like Warren Buffett and people came in maybe from a contrarian standpoint, they looked at things and said, this is a great opportunity.
Right.
Things always get better, right? Over time, things get better. When you're living in this space, maybe you don't think that, but over time, it could be a great opportunity. So it depends on the risk aversion of the potential investor, because if you're not in a high risk, you're not going to go out necessarily and buy a hotel that has nobody in it.
Right.
Unless
Despite people hunting for some of those hotel deals right now.
I'm sure some do. I'm sure some do. They really understand the space. Right. They can buy it for pennies on a dollar. So it really depends on the investor.
So what would you say once somebody has identified the opportunity, what are the possibilities in terms of financing that deal to help them really win?
So I say let's take even one step back before the opportunity, right? Because I'll tell you an example. I have a client right now that came and said, we are really interested in looking for an opportunity and we're planning on buying real estate. What should we do? So I went through their global cash flow and all their properties, what they had, and looked for the ones that had the lowest LTVs, lowest loan to value, that they had room to finance. And I went to the banks and got them about $6 million in loans as lines of credit. Now, why did I do that? Because if you take out a mortgage, you have fully amortized payments, principal, interest to pay immediately, and you may not find something for 6, 8, or 10 months down the road. You could be paying out hundreds of thousands of dollars waiting for that opportunity.
It's crazy.
And if you don't find the opportunity,
you're really
you
at a
can't even
loss.
get out because you can't pay back the bank because there's going to be a prepayment penalty on top of it. So that's not probably the best way to go. So with the lines of credit, the opportunity is not going to pay any money on it until I find something. And when I do, I'm going to have the money, and not only am I going to have the money, I'm going to have it interest only. Now, when you buy the property, you mortgage it, which will take care of the other problem that most lines of credit have in the banks, that they call cleanup. Because when you go for a line of credit, let's say you were a business and you took $3 million of their line of credit, they're fine with it. And after 12 months, they want you to give them back that $3 million for 30 days, and then they give you back the line of credit again. But if you buy real estate, you'll mortgage it, and you won't have that problem either. So you won't have the cleanup problem. You won't have to pay an enormous amount of money, and you'll use it when and if you find the right property. So it's a great way to do it. The downside to the line of credit may be that in certain cases, and you have to talk to your accountant, you really don't want to borrow more than $3 million on each building because there's mortgage tax and things that you need to be involved. You really need to talk to your accountant. So it depends. Like in this case with my client, he did it on 2 buildings. We did $2.9 million on one building and $2,950 on another building. So it kind of fit in, right?
Sure.
So you really need to know what you're doing. That's one way. The second way is you can take a second mortgage interest only on a property. So if you have a large property worth $20 million and you only have a $5 million loan, and let's say the bank would give you as much as $7, $8 million, you can take a second mortgage. You have to pay it now, monthly, but at least it would be interest only. You could find the property that you want to take, and then you can go out and mortgage it and clean it all up. So that's also a good way to go.
Interest only meaning?
No mortgage, no principal payments. So for example, if you had a 4% loan and it was interest only and you borrowed $10 million, it's only going to cost you $400,000 a year. But if you had it with amortization, it may cost you over $1 million a year. In other words, it really ramps up once you include principal. Right. You really want to do it on an interest only basis. And then once you have the property that's throwing off income, it won't matter. Then you take a regular mortgage and you made your deal.
So in that case scenario where you take the mortgage on a nice hefty asset in your portfolio, can you talk to me about prepayment penalties versus none?
Once you find the property, you're going to mortgage it so you'll get around the prepayment penalty. The real prepayment penalty problem would be like if you take which some people may, take a mortgage in order to do their business, and then they decide that they didn't find something that they really wanted, and they want to pay it off.
Right.
They're going to have a prepayment penalty. Most banks try to lock you into a 5% the first year, 4% the second year, 3%, and on through the years. And it can be quite high.
It's a hefty price tag.
Yeah, it's a big payment. Yeah. So you really don't want that. And the last thing, which is going to sound high to people, but it's something worthy of thinking about. Private money is expensive. It could be 10, 12%. And you say, I don't want to do that. But think of it this way. If you found a great property, great, and it had fully tenanted and it has great value and you're going to buy it cheap, you may go to a private lender because it probably would, if I was doing the deal, it probably wouldn't take more than 2 to 3 months to mortgage the property. So if you borrowed even $10 million at 10%, example, but you're only borrowing it over 3 months, it costs you a nice number, but you could roll it right into a mortgage and just keep going. So as big as it is, it still may be the way to go.
Okay.
It's something to consider.
So lots to consider.
Lots to consider.
So Stuart, just knowing you and having learned over the last, couple years since we know each other, I know that just having a relationship with a bank as your financial institution is not always enough because their objectives change week to week. They're, sometimes not on the hunt for deals or maybe trying to be super creative. So I know how important it is to have a commercial real estate finance expert kind of in your corner as an investor to really be your champion in getting you the best deal and the best kind of creative financing. And I know that even at times you've said to me, we've even found deals that you couldn't have even imagined when first approaching the bank for maybe even financing on a different deal. So things come out of that relationship, and that's a really, really cool thing to see. So I'm excited for kind of this time from an investment standpoint the industry to be able to take advantage of some of these kind of hidden gems, if you will.
Absolutely. Even in addition to what you're saying is imagine this. You may have, most people have 1 or 2 banks that they always rely on, right? And they really think that, everybody's pretty close in price and what they do. It's not even close to the case. So if you deal with somebody that is more of an expert in commercial finance and has access to management of a lot of different banks, you can find opportunities that are not even, like you would say, unimaginable, right? Not to be believed, because I've recently experienced it just last month when I had a great client that thought they had the best deal that they could possibly find. And we came back and got them no personal guarantee when they had personal guarantees and rates that were like 50 basis points less than what they were going to pay. They would have saved $250,000 over 5 years and no personal guarantee. So I would not assume that just because you have a relationship with the bank that you necessarily have the best deal. There's a lot of deals out there. And on top of everything else, banks change weekly and monthly what they want to be aggressive at.
Right.
So you really, if that's not what you do every day, it's not supposed to be what you do every day. If you're a developer or you're building things or whatever it is that you're doing as an investor, you may not know the best financial institution to get a deal done with, and that's really important.